Hello and welcome to Washington Unplugged. I'm Nancy Cordes, Capitol Hill correspondent for CBS News. Well, the Senate is headed home in just 48 hours for a one-month August recess. But in those 48 hours, they've got a lot on their plate. They have to vote on the confirmation of the Supreme Court nominee Sonia Sotomayor. They're also voting on cash for clunkers and debating health care. So will they get it all done, and what awaits them at home? I'm joined today by freshman Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon. Senator, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's great to be with you.
I'm sure you're counting down the hours, but you do have a full plate. Let's talk first about the confirmation vote, which is now just a few hours away.
Yes.
On Sonia Sotomayor. Are you surprised that she's not picking up more Republican support?
Well, I would have expected a few more. Let's see where the final vote comes. But whether the vote is large or small, this is a historic day. We'll be confirming our very first Hispanic justice of the Supreme Court in the history of this nation. And of course, we're adding to the gender diversity of the Supreme Court as well. She's so qualified. She brings more bench experience to her nomination than anyone who currently sits on the Supreme Court. And she brings a lot of life experience that gives her a lot of insights to share with her fellow justices. So I'm very excited about the vote that we'll be having, as you put it, just in a few hours.
Now, late Wednesday, Senate leadership worked out a deal so they could bring cash for clunkers to the floor. That's, of course, the vote to increase funding for this very popular program by $2 billion. The House voted last week. The Senate will now vote today on an identical bill. As part of that agreement, Republicans will be bringing forth some amendments. But, of course, if any of those amendments are voted on in the affirmative, then your bill no longer looks like the House bill, and this money doesn't go through right away.
That's right. If it's not identical to the bill in the House, the bill dies. So our goal is to extend this because this is a very good economic development bill, and it's certainly a very good environmental bill. The cars that are the new cars being purchased, replacing the clunkers, get 60% more miles per gallon. So we'll be producing a lot less carbon dioxide, and we'll be using a lot less foreign oil. So those are very, very positive things. In addition, we're helping to restart the engines, so to speak, of our dealers who have been having a challenge at attracting people into the showroom during this recession, and certainly of our car manufacturers. So it's a good program all around.
Now, some of your colleagues from your neck of the woods were actually concerned that this bill and this program wasn't green enough. Did you share those concerns, and why did they change their minds?
Yes, I did share those concerns, and because if the cars turned in, we're all at the maximum miles per gallon allowed, and the cars purchased were all at the minimum allowed, then there wouldn't have been much environmental improvement. But the fact is, these older cars, based on the statistics of those being turned in, there's a huge difference, a 10 mile per gallon difference between the new cars and the clunkers, so that it turns out that it's working very well.
Okay, let's talk about health care now, because I know that this is something that's going to take up a lot of your time and a lot of members' times over this next month. I know that a lot of members were really hoping that they'd be able to go back to their districts in August with something very concrete to tout, to say we have a deal. That hasn't happened. How much of a challenge are you expecting to face when you go back to your district?
Well, first, we got to realize we're so much further than we've been in several decades. We have a bill that's gone through 3 committees in the House. We have a bill, a full comprehensive health care bill that's come through the Health Committee that's on the floor. The Finance Committee is working very hard to complete their work. And so we are so much closer to fundamental health care reform than this body has been in a generation. And so I like to look on the positive side of that. Yes, it would be good to have a single product to bounce off of our constituents, and the vacuum is a little bit of an opportunity for folks to mischaracterize the bill and then attack it. And I certainly saw that in my town halls when I went home. But this is a long conversation. This is a complex effort. We must change the status quo in health care. If it takes a few more weeks to do it, then so be it. Because here we are in a situation where, as it stands now, healthcare is going up by more than 10% a year. It's 17% of our GDP and growing. It's bankrupting this nation, and yet we have so many uninsured. There's so much we can do to improve it, and we're getting close.
You referred to it, but we've all seen what's been going on at some of these town halls around the country. Do you have town halls scheduled for this month, and are you going to be packing your thick skin to show up at them?
You know, I just had 4 town halls this last weekend, and indeed I had some wild moments. Folks are very organized in coming out to express their concern about health care, their concern about energy. They're very vocal. Respectful? Well, on the margin. But I'll tell you, never became chaos in these town halls. We had a spirited exchange. I enjoy a lot the fact that people care enough about the direction of their country to come out and express their opinions. That's a real positive thing. And I just hope that we can get through some of the mischaracterizations to be able to talk about the real core issues we face in our broken healthcare system.
And you're from a pretty progressive state, so are you getting more pushback from the right or from the left? People who say that this bill, as it's taking shape, doesn't have a strong enough public option.
Oh, I'm hearing it from both ends, depending on what part of the state I'm in.
Okay. So what's your prediction then for when you get back in September? How long do you think it will take to get a final product on the table, and how do you marry these very, very disparate parts of your own party? Some who say, I will not vote for this bill unless there is a public option in it, and others who say, I will not vote for this bill unless there is no public option.
Well, the real deadline is mid-October, because that's when reconciliation kicks in as a fallback. And it's going to take several weeks to take the finance bill, get it to the floor, merge it with the health care bill, and try to line up those 60 votes. 60 votes is extraordinarily challenging. Supermajority. We need to find that pathway. It's going to be it's difficult, complex. It's going to stretch our leadership, our committee leadership, our caucus leadership to find the right chemistry. But it will be done. It'll be done because our current path, our status quo, is unacceptable. Folks who have insurance are worried about losing it when they lose their job. They're one pink slip away from a double calamity. People without insurance are worried about getting sick, or if they're sick, how to get well. And just the list goes on and on. Folks with insurance who have preconditions that are not covered, and so they don't really have health care. Folks with insurance who realize that if it keeps going up, they can't afford it, or their employer is going to drop it. I mean, we have stress emanating from every portion of our healthcare system. These bills all have a common chassis, and that common chassis is that we're going to create a master list of insurance plans available to everyone, and a master pool so folks can join that pool and get a far better deal than they're getting by themselves or as a small business. Then we've got to reach agreement on the pieces to add on to that core plan, but we're going to get there. Got it.
Well, Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley, headed home, but very busy before then. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you. It's a delight to be with you.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
And now, as one of two women in the White House press office, 30-year-old Jen Psaki holds her own daily against an aggressive press corps. Kaylee Hartung has an Unplugged Under 40 about this young staffer.
Imagine being 30 years old and speaking for the President of the United States. Jen Psaki does it every day.
The first thought was, when I arrived at the gate on the first day, it was just a complete shock that they let you in. I remember buzzing the gate and saying, I'm here for work, and they were probably thinking, oh my goodness, these new people, they have no idea what they're doing.
Jen is the youngest of Press Secretary Robert Gibbs' deputies. She joined the Obama campaign in its early days, but now finds it's a different world inside the White House.
I think the toughest part is that there's a recognition that this is different than the campaign. This is different than probably any job any of us have ever had, and the stakes are incredibly high. So anything we say can reflect on the president. It can reflect on our relationship with another country or the economic sector, and I think there's just a constant recognition that there is a microscope, as there should be, on everything that happens here.
She may have the best office address, but she hasn't landed that corner office with a view quite yet.
So you guys are not working with a lot of space here.
Well, despite what people see on the West Wing, we are not dealing with a large office building here. This is the full extent of the lower press office, so very close quarters. You hope everybody showers every morning, and fortunately we get along very well.
And where's everybody right now?
In a morning press meeting.
So we got you out of the morning press meeting.
But as the day gets underway at the White House, things pick up in the lower press office.
So I think that the craziest it gets in here is probably when there's breaking news, when the Supreme Court nominee broke, or you know, when there has been news about the banking industry or national security news. So there have certainly been moments, and the way the West Wing is set up, which is a great thing, is that the press have unfettered access to the staff and to spokespeople, and are constantly looking to confirm things or get more information or the backstory.
So when news breaks, who's the first reporter to come running through that door?
I would have to say the Wire reporters and the networks have an uncanny ability to just run and bust through the door asking for confirmation. And of course, that's what their job is, to break news and to confirm it first.
And just what is it like to work with those reporters? We put Jen on the spot in their briefing room.
It's great. They're wonderful. No, it's interesting. I mean, there is so much history. People who have been covering the White House for long before I was even born.
Veteran CBS White House correspondent Mark Knoller thinks she's off to a good start with the press corps.
Well, Jen Psaki is smart, very loyal to the president, defends him at the drop of a hat, but she also makes an effort to give us what we need when she can. She remembers she doesn't work for us, she works for him.
So when does your job end? I mean, is it when you walk out the gates? Are you representing the White House at all times?
You know, because I traveled and I was constantly in what we call the bubble on the campaign, this is different because you walk out of the gates and, you know, you're on Pennsylvania Avenue or you're in DuPont Circle, and, you know, for many of us this is home. And so I think we all try to go home and separate a little bit, but you're on call as well. We all recognize this is an incredible opportunity to be a part of this, and sometimes you have to take a call at 11 p.m. or 6 a.m., but you also get to come to work and work in the White House every day.
Jen may be committed to her job, but she's not married to it.
And I hear you're engaged.
I am, yes.
When's the wedding?
Oh, the ring. The ring is, I mean, the wedding is May 8th next year.
That's great. Is the president invited to the wedding?
Oh, who knows? We haven't done our guest list yet. I think he's got a few things on his plate, though.
She would know. These days, Jen has a full plate herself. For Washington Unplugged, I'm Kaylee Hartung.
And that's it for Washington Unplugged. Join us every day at cbsnews.com at 12:30. I'm Nancy Cordes. Thanks for joining us. See you later.